My name is Jeremy Sampson. I'm the founder and former executive chairman of Interbrand in Africa. The thing about a brand is that it signifies ownership, and brands are owned by companies, usually not by governments. But also a brand is a guarantee of a certain performance or quality. And all of us, when we use brands, when we buy a specific brand, whatever it is, we expect it will deliver on a certain kind of promise. And that applies as much to tobacco brands as anything else. And I'd have thought, especially in the case of tobacco brands, you want to know that they are fulfilling certain legislative formations that are put down, and that's very, very important. All of us, and especially today, know someone termed the phrase the age of you. All of us want to do things our way. Even when we go into a restaurant often now, we won't order straight off the menu. We'll say, can you add this or can you take that away? So we want freedom of choice, freedom of decision making. That is what life is around increasingly today. And if you don't have that freedom, you tend to turn your back, if it's a restaurant, and go somewhere else. So this is where you want that freedom. And to be blunt, if you can't have that freedom of choice, you'll try and find a way around it. So for instance, if things aren't available locally, you'll try and procure from overseas. So you maintain your freedom. You refuse to be dictated to, as it were, by authority. The average supermarket you or I might walk into has got the choice of, 35,000 different brands and products. It might be more, depending on the size. And this is where brands can act as a signpost. They tell you where it comes from, who produces it, and that creates an expectation in our own minds. Now, it can be very confusing to walk into a place where you have such an array of choice, but that brand actually acts as a signpost to you as an individual to make your choice. And then again, you have a certain expectation. You perceive certain things that you'll receive from that brand, whether that's refreshment or how you feel, whether it's the aroma or whatever, an inward kind of satisfaction perhaps. By having plain packaging, you take away any guarantee to the consumer that it's been legislated or controlled, that it's safe to smoke or whatever. But also you're taking tobacco back, and I say back carefully, to the commodity status of tobacco. Commodity is the cheapest, it's the most ordinary, and this is where South Africa, I'm afraid, had a bit of a history of going back to the basics, the commodities, whereas the world has moved on. We all want brands, we respect brands, we like brands, they help us make decisions, as I've said, and they bring value to our lives and value to the owners of those brands. People don't realize the value, and by value I'm talking financial value of brands. Brands are bought and sold. Brands can be owned by different people, where major organizations reconfigure their businesses, refocus their businesses. Sometimes they'll sell off a brand that doesn't fit to someone else who wants it, or they might want to acquire brands. Pernod Ricard, the drinks company, 7 or 8 years ago acquired Absolute Vodka because they had a gap in their portfolio of brands in the vodka area. But they paid something like 80 billion rands to acquire that brand. So people mustn't say brands aren't important. They're important to shareholders, they're important to the consumer, but they're also important to countries in that they provide jobs, and they also, of course, provide a revenue stream to the fiscus through taxation. So brands are important to all of us.